You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
I can neither see nor hear you. There we are. Can you hear me? Okay, because I can't hear you anymore.
Hear me now, Brian.
Yes, I can, Vicky. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika. Our returning guest today is Brian Greiner. Brian is an indie author who has written the Bob Saga series, which is my personal favorite, the Ascending Darkness series, the Accursed North series, and most recently, the popular Haiku Cat. I first met Brian during Fika and now consider him a good friend. He's also Brian from the comments section, but today he's here in full voice. Brian is a curious person who tenaciously follows a trail until he finds an answer. And he's also somewhat frugal. So that is why I invited him here to join me in this conversation on how to stretch your reading budget amidst rising book costs while still supporting authors. Welcome to Fika, Brian.
Thanks, Vicky.
How are you today?
I'm good, yes. And
okay, so,
yes. And you can use the C word, cheap. I don't mind that.
Well, I just didn't want to offend you yet. Okay, at some point in this show, it's going to happen. So, yes. But I didn't want to do that yet. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say that our tips have been given approval from Neil Gaiman and his quote. So let's start with that. Don't ever apologize to an author for buying something in paperback or taking it out from the library. That's what libraries are for. Use your library. Don't apologize to this author for buying books secondhand or getting them from Book Crossing or borrowing a friend's copy. What's important to me is that people read the books and enjoy them, and that at some point in there, the book was bought by someone, and that people who like things tell other people. The most important thing is that people read. And you're an author, Brian. Do you agree with that?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Just read his books because you write it for that purpose.
Exactly.
So before we get into the pricing of the books and what's been happening and opinion, let's go through some of our hints for saving money on books. Remembering that it may be a challenge, but when you see challenges as opportunities, it could open up a whole new reading world for you. So, Mr. Greiner, would you like to begin by sharing some of your tips?
Sure. I'm going to start with a somewhat heretical thought. Most readers have a large pile of books that they buy and mean to read someday, and the cheapest way to not buy new books is to simply read your pile of unread books.
I never thought about that one.
It is a heretical thought, but it's
how dare you?
Exactly. I was sitting here just writing some notes about the show, and I looked at my pile of unread books, and I figured, okay, heresy are us.
Don't even suggest it. They're there for that day when no books are available. Like we have to have a hoard, a supply, just in case.
Exactly. The other thing is used bookstores. Exactly. I have a lot of books from used bookstores because often you can find things there you can't find anywhere else.
They're out of
especially
print.
if they're out of print or they're just rare.
Right.
But there's fewer and fewer decent used bookstores anymore. They used to be common on the ground, and now they're extremely rare, at least in my neck of the woods.
Well, no, the really good magical ones are. I have one fairly close to me, but they're becoming. But under that idea of thrifting the books, every thrift store has a book section. Some are better than others, so just find the one that's the better price for you. And there are, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Saturday morning garage sales. You just have to get there before the bookstores do, right?
Yeah. I've never found a good book at any of the garage sales, though, is to be honest. It's sad how few readers there are. It seems like it's once their kids have outgrown the books, they just stop reading books.
And that's one of the problems with prices going up. The demand is not there, and that's a whole economics that we won't get into right now. But it's true. Also, I'm hoping, I have fingers crossed, I've heard of a 40 family garage sale this Saturday morning. So that venture is worth taking my allergy meds and heading out there, Brian. So we'll see how I
do. The other hint, I'm sure people know this, but to price shop is between your distributors. For example, Chapters, Kobo, Amazon, prices can vary for physical books as well as ebooks.
And I didn't realize that.
Yeah. For example, I was looking at one book that was mentioned by a guest of yours, and it was, if I'm recalling correctly, $4 ebook on Amazon, $11 on Kobo for the exact same thing.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen that span of price range for physical books. Not so much anymore, but
no, because they're all high.
It's so it pays to shop. Also,
well, it does.
It shop the sales.
No, especially on the ebook things, because they'll be like suggested for you on budget this week, and there are fantastic books for like $4.
Yeah.
You just have to keep
watching. Or buy two get one free, or buy one get one free. There are a lot of different types of sales. Some are aimed at specific countries. Others are more general, but you're not always told about them. So
you have to keep an eye open, and you have to look.
In terms of keeping an eye open, there are a couple of places that sell bundles, like Humble Bundle and Story Bundle. They will curate a selection of books under a theme. And I've bought a dozen different bundles over the years, more than that. And you can usually get a whole bunch of good stuff for a pretty good price. And even if you don't like as many as half of them, you're usually ahead of the game. And it's a nice way to support. Well, they're often supporting a charity, of both of them, or they're supporting specific authors. Fair enough. But often it's a way to get stuff you just can't get otherwise. Or if you can get it, it's obscenely expensive.
And if you have a particular interest, it's a good way to boost up your library, because there is no topic that, like, just because something's written in a book does not mean it's necessarily true. Much like the internet. So it gives you several. Fika is true, people. Okay, I'm pretty honest on here. Brian really is my friend. I'm not faking that, but on most days. But it gives you several different books on the same subject to look at and see the different opinions there.
Yeah. So it's now that's ways to save money, is to spend less than you would. In terms of free books, there's a lot of resources out there. First and foremost, has to be your local library. I mean, support your local library, people. When they have their charity drives, give them money.
When they have book sales, fill that bag for $5.
Yep, and give them a 20 and say no change.
Right.
And just look at the look of joy is on their face. But libraries are magical, even more so these days, because they have links to all sorts of resources like, mind is starting to
That's okay.
blank now.
Just deep breath.
Yeah,
we have lots of time.
Places like Hoopla.
I just want to say something about Hoopla. Okay, Hoopla is fantastic because you can get magazines, movies, music. I borrowed the Dangerous Old Woman series by it's right here. Brian, what happens to me when I get on here and the words? See, never feel bad because you're always going to do better than Vicky. All the guests are going to do better. Oh, The Dangerous Old Woman, Myths and Stories of the Wise Woman Archetype by Calissa Pincola Estes, PhD. And I listened to that while I painted, and I was becoming more creative as moments passed. And you can't pass something like that up. Like, go in there and find the treasures. You would be amazed what is available.
Yep. Ebooks, audiobooks, they've got movies, they have all sorts of
complete series, complete TV series.
Yeah. So it's a fabulous place. It's a fabulous resource. They typically limit you in how many things you can borrow per month.
5
but
a month?
Fair. Yeah.
But how many TV series can you watch in a month?
I don't get those through Hoopla.
But it's possible.
Yeah. So I think the limit is five items. But it's a great way to sample different authors, different genres, and you are supporting the author when you go through places like Hoopla or your local library. I want to emphasize that.
Because they still get the royalty for the purchase.
Yep.
And I know in Canada, there's 18,000 authors that can make from like up to $100,000 a year through the Canada Arts thing for loaning books to the library.
I don't think there's too many of them making $100,000 a year.
No, but it's possible.
It is typically a handful of dollars.
I couldn't remember. 50. It's anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
But $50 is $50 when you're writing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're new and unknown, which is probably the $50 people, you might not make that selling them. So go to the library.
But it's always worth, if you're an indie author in Canada, you have to apply to the Canada Arts Council. But then once you're there, you're there. And they check a sampling of libraries. Apparently not every library, but a sampling. And they say, and they sort of, and they make as a guess as to how much you would have sold, and then they send you money. I've never got any money from them, but I know people
do that. Getting sent money is never a bad thing, I don't think.
So anyway, so there's ways to do that. But then there's legally free places that sell, or not sell, is where you can obtain ebooks and other things. Probably the most famous one is Project Gutenberg. They're a repository of all things ebookish. And they have old, new, they have just an astounding selection.
And you can donate to them. If you use theirs, you can donate to them if you use their service a lot.
But it's strictly voluntary. They don't ask for money ever.
And so I want to bring, can I just interject something about Gutenberg? I want to bring up that you can love real books and ebooks. For example, my aesthetic is, it looks like you found it in an attic. So I have gotten this Ivanhoe, which is one of my favorite stories, from a garage sale or a secondhand store or something for next. I think it was a book sale for a woman's center. And the pages, it doesn't show up there, but they're not really comfortable to read. They're old and brittle, and so this is just a book for looks because I like the Ivanhoe. I actually have Ivanhoe to read from Project Gutenberg on my whatever. So this is you can combine the two worlds. I mean, what we love about one world and what we love about another. So I have the visual presence and I have the book I'm able to read.
Well, Project Gutenberg and others like it often have books that you can't get anymore. You simply can't get them. And you either get them there or you never know they exist. It's amazing. It's just utterly astounding. Now, it's been so successful that it's spawned country-specific ones like Gutenberg Canada and Gutenberg Australia.
And there's the UK.
Yep, and they focus on local authors more than trying, and they'll have things that Project Gutenberg does not. The other thing to keep in mind is that copyright varies from country to country. So what is still in the commercial domain in one country can be in the public domain in another. So you might be able to get legally free versions of some books in, say, Gutenberg Canada that you wouldn't get from the original Project Gutenberg, simply because the copyright length is a few years less. For example, the James Bond novels are public domain in Canada, but not in the US. That is,
because it's a different time frame.
It is.
It's a different time frame between them.
Yep.
Now, I would like to point out as a resource for writers, finding out what is public domain through Project Gutenberg is an amazing asset, because that is why we have so many. I love Sherlock Holmes, and we won't get into our discussion on Sherlock Holmes, but I love Sherlock Holmes, and that's why we're getting so many spin-offs of Sherlock Holmes, so many books around the Sherlock Holmes story, is because he is in public domain, and we can do those things. So if you have a favorite story that is older, just check out to see if it's in public domain, and you might be able to make it part of your writing today.
Yep. You can look at authors who were contemporaries of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but are no longer famous.
Right.
So you simply cannot get the physical books unless you're exceptionally lucky. But they are on Project Gutenberg, or sometimes Gutenberg Australia or Gutenberg Canada, and they're still interesting stories.
Well, that's it. You are a big Gutenberg Project reader, and because you like the old science fiction and the older, but you like to get to the
from my era. That makes me feel young.
No, but it's familiar. So there's a nostalgic aspect of going there. It's like going home. I know this story. And
or else you can find things by a favorite author that you never knew they did. Mm-hmm. Something I'll be getting into later is, as like I mentioned now, the Pulp magazine archive, where it's got a gazillion of the old pulps. And the interesting thing about the pulps, the interesting thing about the pulps is they were the training ground for a lot of writers who started out mediocre,
right?
And they were paid enough that they could keep at it and become good. Ray Bradbury is a perfect example.
I was going to say, and he will say that he just wrote to pay for the groceries.
And I came across some of his early stuff in the Amazing magazine, and I'm going, Ray Bradbury, wow! And you read it, you go, it's okay, nothing special.
No, it's right. Okay, so many people think you're going to sit down and write that bestseller, and they don't write until they're able to write the bestseller.
Yep.
But that usually isn't the way it works.
Yep.
So I'm not going to say that's never the way it works. And if it's
rarely,
go for it. So you've got to put out the other stuff. But the point is to write.
Yep. That's something that the old time authors had that the new ones don't. They had
the market,
well,
like magazines and stuff.
They had outlets
Yeah.
that we simply don't have anymore. They had the pulps, they had the magazines, they had things like the schlocky Ace the doubles, 2 novels in one. Back in the early 50s, they were 25 cents.
So, well, they're like the
Then in the
B-rated
60s,
movies, right?
yeah.
It's that
And then in
same
the
kind
60s,
of
they went up to
idea.
like 45, 60 cents a buck, and then they stopped making them. But they were great training ground. Like Robert Silverberg, famous science fiction author.
And you could pay cheaper. You're still
Cheaper.
reading. You could, and those books inspired so many people. Like
Yes.
Stephen King was inspired by those things with the horror movies, and movie producers and directors, and writers. That inspired a whole generation, I think. Yep. Of writers that we miss now, because it has to be that bestseller. It has to be on the list, right? The yep. reading list. And the reading list, okay, there's a lot. The reading list is a great bunch of books, but if you're looking for something a little different, you may not find it there. So you'll find it in these other areas. Okay, before we go on to your other suggestions, Brian, I just have to take this comment from Dave. Like, I have to take your comment. Mr. Benison says, another great place is those little free libraries. Hint, hint. And I would say that's not both taking, but it's giving. We recently started a little free library because we have books, and it's always been a dream of mine. So when you go out, it's an adventure every day, because you don't know what books are taken, and you get to know what people are interested in. But it also, people put books back there. So the other day I went out, and there was a John Cleese biography, and I grabbed it because I hadn't read it. And then I said, oh my goodness, Vicky, you have such a reading mood. We're never going to get to this book. You don't get to just read for fun anymore. No, reading is always fun. So I took it back, and within half a day, it was gone again. So, it's like, oh, there's somebody else out there who likes John Cleese. So even if you're an introvert, you get to mingle with the community in the secret kind of clandestine kind of way. So this is make a little library, share the books, and you will get books back to read. And it's just fun. Like it's a fun adventure. Susan B. Marcus, we'll put that up. Susan says, what about blog sites? Sometimes writers offer a freebie to subscribers.
Yep. And
I had a thing written. Can I take this one, or do you want to take this one? Or I had that on your list.
No, that's
your list.
That's very true, Susan. Some have complete stories, or on my site, I offer multiple chapters from every book that I've written, so people can get an idea of what the book is about.
Which is important when you're introducing yourself to the world.
Yeah, well, because with the physical book, you can pick it up, you can read the first few pages, get a feel if it's the sort of thing that you enjoy. Ebooks, you've got a reader, you've got, a thing, and you can't really tell. So I offer fairly extensive excerpts. Some promise a free short story if you sign up for their mailing list. That's the latest craze.
Yes.
I'm not crazy about that personally.
And with some of the, well, it depends. There you don't have to read them if they show up in your
yep.
line of emails. And on top of that, they will also offer, aside from the free book that you can get with that, there are often like contests and just freebies that they will put out along the way. I'm thinking of Anna Markland. She was a guest in the original Fika, and she has a what they call a pre-reading list that she has an invitation to at this point in time. A pre-reading list in which you can get the book for free before it goes out to review it. So and there are a remarkable amount of books that go through there. So there you can get on a pre-reading list, and writing reviews is big, because if you write a lot of reviews, sometimes authors will like your reviews and they will say, hey, do you want to review this book? And they'll give you that book. And that is how I met Barbara Van Ketterman. I read her book and she sent me such a letter. I read it and I loved it and said, hey, I have a show. Do you want to do a show? But we all know that Vicky is notoriously bad about keeping up with her reviews. Brian, yours is coming, I promised, over the weekend. So, but I think the important thing in that when writing reviews is that we do be honest, because somebody's reading that and going to spend their money. And so we sort of lose the integrity of reviews when we just, so if you don't like a book, don't write a review.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that reviews are for other readers. They're not for the author. It's in a small way you're doing a favor for the author, especially if they're an unknown indie. It's just something nice to do. But the important thing about reviews is for other readers.
Because I read those reviews. When I'm looking at a book, I'll read the reviews. I don't pay attention to stars because I've said before, and Brian is aware of my star theory. I just don't like the star theory. I just if you completed a book that I liked and went through that, I give you 5 stars. That's just the way I am. But if I don't like it, I don't say anything, because I don't think, I know being creative constructionism is important. Is that right? I don't know. It's important to writers, but I only say these things to people I love. So I know they're going to take it in a good way and that they don't have to listen to me. I don't want to. It's not my job to fix it. They should have fixed it before. So I write good reviews of the books I like so that people, but it is important to have integrity when writing a review, because somebody might be on the last 99 cents of their gift card and spend it on a book that you said was good, because there are 99-cent books out there, and it's not. It's not. Exactly. Also along with Susan's thing is, if you have an author and they do a book launch, they will often give away a free book during the book launch. You'll get to know more about the book. Rachel Patterson is having one this Saturday for her book, Goddesses and Gods of Britain, I believe is the name, of England. Thank you. Of England this Saturday. And there is a free book in the opt-in. So people, you follow your favorite authors. We said with the sales, keep an eye on what's happening. And when you do this stuff, if you want to give back for that free book, if you like it, write a review. If you don't, write an honest review, and like it on social media. Okay, I cannot express enough. The algorithms are deadly. Make comments, even if you say hi. That's a comment. But get their things out there. Okay, one more comment, and then we'll.
From Dave, yes.
Okay, you missed that part, so I'm going to show that. Does Brian have a favorite used bookstore in his area to hunt for books? And
I used to, but it's gone now. If the owner died, and his wife couldn't carry on, so it went away.
You couldn't jump in there? Were you retired yet? And say,
no.
Say, I will put everything I have into getting this bookstore.
If my wife would make sure that I died. But yeah, no, it was really sad. They had some great stuff for many years. As my wife and I would haunt that place. The owner knew me.
Because you don't know what you're going to find, right?
Yeah,
it really is a treasure hunt.
And the other thing, for years you look at something like nah, and then a few years on you go, maybe I'll look at that, and it might be good, it might be bad, but your taste changes. But it's a lovely place, or it was. and now it's gone, and there's really nothing to take its place.
For us, used bookstores are travel destinations. Like, it is a lifestyle, okay? And we like to go in there on a rainy afternoon and just it's magical. Used bookstores, you said, are completely magical. I have there was a book, The Druids, that I used to keep getting out of the library, and then I was visiting a friend in Philadelphia, and on her street at that point, it's gone too, there was a railway car beside no, it was an old train station, which was wonderful, and I found it at so then I bought it. You see, you like a book, and sometimes, even though you got it free originally, you will. I mean, I have several those kind of things in my life. So yes, used bookstores are. I'm sorry about your used bookstore, Brian. And you're not allowed to start one.
I almost have enough books to do that, but no, you don't sell books. You don't give them away. You keep them. You acquire.
No, because you can't. I did that during I got the allergies, so I got rid of my books because of the dust. And then during the lockdowns, it occurred to me that I couldn't even go get books, right? Now you're telling me I have to read electronic books when I'm told to do something. So afterwards, I've gone a little crazy saying I must have these books. But then I thought, I can't evacuate with all these books if something should happen, Brian.
Yeah, but nothing's going to happen. The books will protect you.
That's it. That's it.
That's what I keep telling myself.
They're a barrier, around everything. So
home good, world bad. Yeah, that's how I view it. And home is where the books are.
We know, which is why you have to have a little free library, because you don't see the people coming, and they don't see you. It's just this constant meeting of books. Okay, let's go on with your list of other.
I just want to do a quick thing. These places that I'm mentioning, I did write a blog post that has all the links to all these places.
Right.
So it's on my website, and so you can get the links there. Now there's
also, you can get the link to his website in the description of the show if you're watching this later on any of the platforms, and that is on the advertising of the show on my site, but I will also just put that up there.
I'll just say it's www.briangreiner.ca or .com will work as well. Okay, now the pulp magazine. Now there's a place called the Internet Archive, which is astounding. They're another repository of a gazillion different things in a gazillion different formats. They also have various pulp magazines, as well as Galaxy magazine, which is an important science fiction magazine that's now extinct. But you can get these legally free from the Internet Archive. And it's just an astounding resource. You can waste hours. You can read until your eyes bleed. So it's perhaps not current, but perhaps more current than Project Gutenberg. But it's got stuff that Gutenberg doesn't have. It's just amazing. If you like audiobooks, there's a place called LibriVox, which is sort of like a public, like a Project Gutenberg, but for audiobooks. The quality, it's often done by amateurs and uploaded, so the quality can be variable. But it's usually pretty good, and you can hear things. And one fun thing that I downloaded was one of the H.P. Lovecraft stories, and because Lovecraft had some funky names for his great old ones. You don't always know how they're pronounced, so I downloaded this, and this guy was rattling off these names. I'm going, okay, Not perhaps quite how I thought of it in my own head, but okay, it sounded reasonable. And so yeah, you can hear it narrated. NASA. I want to for nonfiction books about space travel and astronomy and research. NASA in the States has a lot of free ebooks, and these are professionally produced items. These are not just cast off things. These are amazingly good. Oh, the color photos from NASA are just boggling.
And that would be a fantastic resource for a writer who wants to write about space in that, because that's probably as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
To what's.
And I will point out that the images you can get are public domain by and large. You have to check, but they're typically public domain, so they're great for people doing titles as of their books, whether you're a graphic artist or a frugal author like I am, and you're doing your own. You can get some really snappy artwork. It's also an interesting source of ideas. Like you can play the what if game, but it's based on a version of reality that's real. Well,
no, that's it. I mean, that's probably as close to the facts as you're going to get to play what if. And you can research is so important in writing, and that would be a resource in.
I say Gutenberg and its ilk are good for the old time books, because often there's stuff written about fairies and the supernatural.
Well, you can get the original fairy tales there, where it's not Disney. Yeah, I have
more. Well, they're more original because they're often.
Well, yes, where the Cinderella that I downloaded actually has it as the tree and not the fairy godmother that brings her the wishes. So it will go that far back that you can.
There are typically multiple versions, like it's like Little Red Riding Hood. There are several variants.
Yes.
But they're not Disney.
No, you have to keep going. It's changed over time as stories do.
Yep.
To fit the populace and
that can be interesting to get the same story from different generations and see how it changes.
And then
that can be very, very instructional.
Why? And then look into the whys of why it changed and how the culture changed. I think when it comes to older people don't take the context. It's just like, well, that is bad, but it may be very enlightened for that time. So you have to look at the time.
It makes you think. It makes you try and understand, as you say, different points of view, which is the viewpoint of all literature. But there, because it's how literature interacts with society at large. For example, the original Beauty and the Beast. The Beast was originally just a grumpy old man. Not a supernaturally cursed creature.
And you didn't take that personally, did you, Brian?
I thought it was inspirational.
Okay. On that note, I would just like to point out that Mr. Benison has written that to Brian personally. His name is mentioned. He's saying that it's a fight to get Vicky to put the books in the free library. Defending your hoarding. She wants to keep them all. That is not true, but I want to keep some of them. Like, no, my Druid book's not going to go into the little free library. So all I want is a little space of books, Brian. I don't want to keep them all. I've made sacrifices that I didn't think I ever would. Thinking, no, Vicky, that book is available elsewhere. If you really need it, you can get it again.
Well, your biggest sacrifice is to give Dave a room for his Star Wars stuff instead of using it for your books.
Thank you very much. There's been a lot. So no, that is a lot. See, you cannot believe anything you hear on the internet.
Especially if it comes from spouses.
Especially if it comes from spouses, right? So
we should get back to speaking of the internet, getting back to the free stuff.
Yes.
rather than having a family squabble. Another really great site is called Open Culture. They are not a repository. They are a gatherer of links to places that do have collections of various sorts, ebooks for fiction, nonfiction, online courses, artwork. They have a lot of specialty artwork places throughout the world, especially the art galleries and museums these days. And I found that out through Open Culture. They search for the weird and offbeat, and they just got links to amazing, amazing things. If you're interested in artwork, there's the British Museum. The hard part is they got literally a million things. How do you focus on it?
Susan wants to know if you can use the Kindle to read free books. And you can.
I'm not sure.
It says in the States on my
mm-hmm.
Kindle. I'm good at brand name. On my Kindle, when you go to Gutenberg, there will be downloads, and there'll be downloads for Kindle. It is not available in Canada yet. I don't think so, and I'm not sure with the UK and Europe, but in the States, they do have Kindle download. You'll have several options to download.
Yeah.
When you bring that Gutenberg book up, and it does have Kindle download.
Just want to point out that on other readers like the Kobo, you can what's called sideload. You can download to your computer, dump it to your e-reader. That's one of the reasons that I prefer the Kobo.
Well,
also, for example, there's the iPad. It can do the same thing. So you can have a portable reader. The problem with the iPad, it's big. It's like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It's great for things like graphic novels or for big things.
That you want to have the pictures. That you want to really see the art.
But for just reading text, you can't beat a Kobo because the form factor, for example, it fits in the hand.
I can't bring my toy to the game because it's in the other room. But I will say that I have learned, even at my age, I have learned that if you get a PDF file of a book and you download it onto your phone, you can then press it in your files and it will go, then you can put share and it will go to your Kindle. So it doesn't I gotta figure. I have to. Did I say I have to figure out how to get that to happen with EPUBs because EPUBs go directly to my overdrive on my phone, and I can read off my phone, but I prefer to read off of my other.
Yeah, I spent years reading off my phone, but then I got old.
No,
and then I stopped working.
It makes a difference.
Yep.
For the size of the words.
Well, the nice thing about Kobo and other e-readers is that you can vary the size of the text. And on some days that my eyes are tired, I blow up, and it's great. They are not very good for images, but for just text, they're great.
Yeah, no, because you're not getting the colors, and I don't know if you do on Kobo.
No.
I on my particular Kindle, I do not get the colors.
It's a black and white. It's what's called electronic paper. So you get limited grayscale, 16 levels of grayscale. Good enough for text, more than good enough for text, more than good enough to give you an idea of what the image might be. But it's not photorealistic in any way, shape, or form.
So, are you finished with your list, Brian?
Just a couple places.
Okay.
Mentioned Open Culture, a place called Standard Books. They're another ebook repository. What they do is they go through the ebooks and they will correct any typos, and they will create a it's a new funky cover for them. So what you get is a really professional looking ebook, which is really nice. Again, the links to all of these are on my blog post on my website. Yeah. So
name your website. What is the name of your
www.briangreiner.ca.
Thank you.
That will link to the actual site, but that's just easy to say over as I tell people about it. I also have there's a place called the Embassy of the Free Mind. And what this has, I added this specifically for you, Vicky, and some of the guests that you've had. They have scanned copies of some of the really, really old occult witchcraft books from like the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. And they have, I don't know, 18 or 20 of them the last time that I looked. It is.
Yeah, no, and growing with, well, because, you know, that was a big thing at that time. Into the 1600s and the 1700s.
Yeah.
It's and a dangerous thing. So
it's interesting from the viewpoint of graphic artists and authors doing their own covers. It's also a great source of images.
Well, you know what, Brian makes Brian walks people. So I don't know. I know that people listening won't be able to see that, but he makes cards for his friends like me, and he uses public domain images. I will never get this. So you get cards with these lovely, and they're so nostalgic, and they're so wonderful, and I love them. I'm going to make a journal and use these as illustrations in it someday.
That is, the author died like 120 years ago, so it's well out of copyright.
But it's a lovely, and the artist gets remembered because of these things. And I have got, I love those illustrations from the children's book and that of yesteryear. So we'll put this up because this is a great show from Janice Richardson. Great show, good advice, lots of options for readers on a tight budget. Or if you're just cheap. No.
Like me.
Like some of us. Okay, I just want to mention another for those who are extroverts, okay, and they read. The idea of having like a book potluck get together where you can each share a little bit about why you like the book or the books that you brought, and then people have an idea what they are, and then exchange them there with friends. You know, you can bring a meal, a side dish, and a book, and you can share. And if there is extra cash around, you could even pick an author a month if you wanted to buy a book, and each get the book, and you like it, get a good review, and then follow them on social media, and just make that author's month. Okay, that would make an author's month.
Or what you could do is you could pair an author with a drink. Like in my case, it'd probably be a whiskey sour. But
you want the people to be able to discuss things intelligently at the end. Right?
No, it's far more fun to start screaming, no, you fool, you fool. And then use the books as weapons.
And he does have a fireplace, people. So we will picture him with his book and his drink, whiskey sour, in front
and
of
the cat on my lap.
And the cat on your lap. The haiku cat.
Yes.
Grumbling about the neighbor's kids.
Haiku cat.
There you go. Haiku cat. And that will be a picture of Brian. But no, if you are, I mean, I think that would be a great way to meet people, have something to talk about that's positive. It's so easy when we get in groups now to start talking about the negativities around us. We're talking about something positive. So I think, or else you could start a radio show about books. And then you can get some more free books. But like I said, then you don't have time to read the John Cleese biography that you found in your own little library. Sadness. the important thing is that whatever you get, if you like it, stand on your rooftop, not in winter when it's icy, but stand on your rooftop and shout about it. Tell your friends, put it all over your social media. If people get upset that you're posting too much about books, they just go, you will get book friends back. Okay. That get it, because if you do that, people become familiar with the name. So if they see a movie about that book, they're thinking, well, you know what, I heard the book was good, I'm going to go try the movie, and the author gets royalties from that. If there's an audiobook out, they might catch them anywhere. So you don't know where your passion and your love for something is going to drive you to. And Susan says, B. Marcus says, she reviewed Haiku Cat on Amazon.
Susan is a gem, yes.
Susan, you're making me look bad. Okay. I have to get going. Okay, so we were going to just discuss the pricing, and we have very little time to do that. But so you're just going to have to come back again, Brian, while we talk about pricing. You're here anyways, so, I just figure. But if we have you and me and a guest, it's not going to work because we're going to both be talking at the same time. Right?
Well, I'll be lurking in the comments.
Yeah, you're going to be here anyways.
You fool, yes.
And I thank you very much for that. So the reason they say that the prices are going up, and I shouldn't say that because I believe this is true, is because the paper costs are going up. And the paper costs went up because... And also the fuel costs of getting the pulp to them, to the paper companies. It's a whole, the fuel costs have gone up. So there is reason for the book prices to go up. But the ebooks are going up in price, equaling them, because the ebooks are part of the same company. So that balances out the losses in print. And I'm saying there has been, I'm not pointing fingers, but there has been many years of knowing these kind of things were going to happen and print was going down, that we could have changed some of our models of business. Brian, am I being too harsh?
No, I think you're being far too kind. Actually.
I've never heard you say it. Okay. So, Brian,
the first time for everything, I think you're trying to be perhaps not kind, but to not let your real feelings out, because I've heard some of those real feelings. Yeah. So I'll say it. They're charging too damn much.
They are, and they're not caring about the readers. This is not caring for the readers.
That's
and
right.
It doesn't
I know what the costs are. It's because I'm a self-published author. I take care of all the production. So I know what these things cost.
And I just want to say before Brian starts, because we're going to have to cut this at some point, I'll just cut him off, that I do think it's a time for indie authors to shine. If they don't get, they don't get greedy and raise their prices to what the other ebook prices are, they are going to have a market of people looking for books that are affordable. Now, Brian, tell us how you price your books.
Okay. I've been doing this for a few years, and I've priced high, I've priced low. It has made no difference. But every couple of years, I look at, and I read a lot, but it's more experienced people have said. And I was telling Vicky before the show, there's 3 factors that have kind of influenced my thinking. One is, what's the average cost of the bestsellers in your genre? What's the personal price you'd pay? I think that's a pretty good gut check there. But a more quantifiable thing is set your ebook price to be between 1/3 and 1/2 the cost of the paperback. And for my books, I set, okay, what are some big name good authors charging? I would typically charge 1/3 to 1/2 of that, and then I looked at, on the other hand, 1/3 the cost of the paperback, and all those numbers pointed to like $4 or $5, and so that's sort of what I charge for my ebooks. depending on the currency that you use, they're $4 US, typically, plus or minus. And I make no apologies for it. Some people say that it has to be less. Some people say it has to be more. I think more is obscene.
But you pointed out, okay, just grab one of those original books you showed me and how much you paid for it.
I was looking through these.
In the oldie days.
Yeah, in the oldie days. I grew up reading these ace doubles. Two novels in one. Here's one from 1965, 45 cents for 260 pages. Here's one from 1990, a full, nice thick novel. Lovely cover too. $4. So that's like 33 years ago, and it's 400 pages. Others, more recent, from George R.R. Martin back in his science fiction days. This is from 2001, 21 years ago. $14 for 361 pages. This one's interesting because this is a trade. These are mass market paperbacks. But this is the trade paperback size, which is equivalent to one of mine.
Right.
So the price of mine is slightly more than this book, which is 20 years ago. So I don't think I'm overcharging.
But what is your ebook price?
About $4.
Yes. So you can get number one in the Saga of Bob series for less than a Starbucks cup of coffee.
Yes. The number one is $3. Subsequent ones are $4.
Right. So that's what we're looking at indie prices. Maybe up to $7.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any that really go above $7. And there's some good
ebooks.
Stuff
there are ebooks that are $20. First-time authors.
But they're not being wise. This is what I'm saying. It's
true.
Your chance to shine if you keep your prices lower. Not say, they're charging that, so I can. The point is to get books out there and read. It's not about making so much money per book. It's to get your books out there and read so that people get to know you and want to get the second book. You need to develop a fan base. That's like
there's all sorts of ways and means of growing your audience, and it's like the old saw by Kipling. There are 4 and 20 ways. It's the right tribal lays, and isn't each and every one of them is right. Something's going to work for somebody, and you can't say that this is the one true path.
No, everything's different. Some people are more outgoing. Some people are quieter. I mean, that's why you're going to find these books in different places. Some
people are just luckier. That's just the way it is. It strikes the right people at the right time, and they go, I wants me that one.
Well, I don't want to say it's just luck. It's talent. It's research. It's like, for example, last week, Helen J.R. Bruce's book, which I absolutely loved, was $3.98. It's $3.98 to buy that book, which is it's a fantastic book. So, with lots of research and work done, and so you have to plug and just keep on going. If you're an indie author,
if you're an indie author, you have to toot your own horn because no one's going to do it for you.
You cannot hide in a basement.
I try.
Because someone's going to say, Brian, you need to come out from the comment section once in a while and smile. So thank you again for all the work you do with the comments. Thank you for all the research that you've done here and putting up with domestic squabbles, which you instigated with bringing up Star Wars. By the way.
A man's got to have a hobby.
Yes, this is not a very challenging hobby to get us to go. So I want to say thank you to you, and we will do another show on how we truly feel about the publishing industry. or maybe we shouldn't. So I'm just going to say goodbye so you can get the writing club started. And I'll talk to you in like 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Brian. Okay. That was fun to talk to Brian. And instead of just reading his comments, I hope you all enjoyed it. Next week, our guest is going to be Kim M. Watt. Kim weaves worlds where reality and myth clash to bring you humorous tales filled with magic, friendships, and people of all species looking out for one another. So I'm saying think dragons and cake, people, and you won't want to miss that. Until then, may your coffee be hot and your story sweet.
You are listening to Fika with